Well, hello everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Welcome to It's Time for More Injury Funding podcast for all who want to learn about legal funding and its significance in the personal injury law, workers' compensation, tracking injuries, sports and activity related injuries, and anything in between. And like I said, so many different law practices that we want to cover. But today specifically, we'll talk with our special guest, Josh Stein, owner of Stein Law Firm. And I'm Laura, founder and CEO of More Injury Funding, and your host today. And the More Injury Funding, we are legal counselors, legal funding counselors with passion for law, medicine, legal funding, and heart for all suffering individuals. At More Injury Funding, we offer legal funding services to our clients who find themselves in a difficult financial situation after they've been injured. And those services include cash advances, medical treatment funding, post-settlement financing, case funding, and attorney funding. More Injury Funding is a sponsor, a member, associate, or business partner of the Academy of Truck and Accident Attorneys, Sandy Springs Bar Association, Georgia Association of Paralegals, and Georgia Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Again, in today's episode, we have our very special guest, Joshua Stein, the guru of podcast, for the last, how many years, Josh?
Well, I appreciate, number one, appreciate you having me and considered a guru. I don't know if that's true, but I appreciate you saying that. I've been a couple of years now, I think probably 2 years or so.
It's amazing. And I think that's when I met you, Josh. One day I just walked in the office and saw all this amazing equipment. And I said, you know what? He is good at what he does. And, with all these 3 years of experience, he's just had an enormous amount of amazing guests and just truly helpful, essential, real life situations and stories. So truly appreciate it. And what's your podcast called?
Well, I appreciate that. First off, good for you for doing your own podcast here. It's great. I'm always proud of people that take an idea like that and go forward with it. You're going to do great. You got all sorts of great equipment here, better equipment than I have, quite frankly. So good for you to be on my podcast called Sports and Torts. It was a way for me to kind of combine my two biggest interests, my hobbies being sports, baseball, basketball, football, golf, playing it, watching it, rooting for teams. And then, of course, the lawyer, you mentioned personal injury work. That's what my firm does. Torts is a fancy word of kind of talking about the types of cases that we handle. So
excellent.
My dad, very smart. He came up with the rhyme, sports and torts. So that's where we're at.
I love it. Need to talk to your dad, actually. So Attorney Stein lives by a firm belief that his firm serves just like neighbors in the pursuit of justice with care and compassion throughout the community. Tell me a little bit, Josh, what you mean by that.
Yeah. So there's many different ways of setting up your law firm. And as you know, living in Atlanta, you can't go 5 feet without seeing a billboard or seeing hearing a commercial. So there's tons of lawyers out there. We want to differentiate ourselves by saying, hey, look, we're people that want to help our friends, help our neighbors, help our community. We have a big presence in the community. I live in Cobb County, which you do too. And so we're involved in, football games as sponsors to the high schools, golf tournaments. And so, we want to make sure that we're giving back to the community. And when those people get hurt, they need help. We want them to think of us. And so,
and it truly works. And I appreciate you actually. Remember when I texted you last year, I believe my son was playing football at Walton High School, and I saw your son, and I told him my son's like, I know this guy. I love it. So
well, good. That means it's working. I mean, Mark Aston, who is the PA announcer of the Walton football games, a friend of mine, and he always does such a great job making sure he plugs my law firm when something happens in the game.
He's still there. He's still there. He's just amazing. That voice, that energy, I just absolutely love it.
Yeah.
So let's talk about things that you want to talk, Josh. So I think we're going to cover today, just to give you a little overview. We'll talk about where does the money come from to pay for medical treatment that's needed by clients. Then we'll talk a little bit about how important it is for clients to really follow doctors and attorneys' direction and being consistent in medical treatment. And also we'll talk a little bit on how to evaluate personal injury case to make sure it's successful at the end of the day to the client. And also we'll touch on how does handling premises liability, dog attacks, and daycare negligence cases are different from handling truck and car accidents. So, and then at the end, I'll give you a really fun pop-up question.
All right, sounds good. Sounds good.
So, let's just start with, tell us a little bit where the money comes from for the medical treatments for our clients.
Yeah, so I'm sure that's something that you probably talk a lot about in this podcast and what your business does a good job of doing. So that's the first question that we get from our clients, right? Like they've been in a wreck, the premises case, whatever, and wasn't their fault. They didn't ask for it to happen. They're going about their business. Someone runs a red light and hits them, and now medical bills are mounting, and they don't know what to do. And that's really where we step in. And so when I get the question of, well, Josh, who's going to pay for all of this? The answer is, well, ultimately, when the case gets resolved, the other insurance company, whoever it is that covers the person that caused the wreck, whatever, they want to pay for it. But how do we get there? A couple different options. Number one, if they have health insurance, that's always a good option to use to pay for medical bills. If they don't have health insurance, there are different ways to get funding from folks like you, for more injury funding, that can basically front the money or pay the money to doctors to get the care they need. You can speak more to this and how your company works, but what that does is it relieves the stresses from the client to worry about these mounting bills, have somebody else pay for it, and then when the case gets resolved, those bills then get paid back from the settlement. So the whole idea is, we want our clients to make sure that they can still live their life and go about their business and not worry about mounting medical bills.
Exactly. And so from legal funding perspective, we kind of tell really the same thing, and it's sad because a lot of times, or most of the times, really clients don't know who to turn to, who can help them. So if you ever have that situation, just call us at More Injury Funding, and we would love to help you out. The process is very simple. We will help you find a proper doctor, whether it's orthopedic surgeon, a physical therapist, neurologist, or psychologist, maybe, really anybody you can think of. Maybe you need a little chiropractic adjustment. Just give us a call and we'll go from there.
And that's important to bring up too, because a lot of our clients don't know where to turn doctor wise. They don't have an orthopedic doctor. They don't have a psychologist. They don't have a neurologist, and they need these things. So it's very helpful to have resources such as you and your firm that can say, look, here's a list of folks, here's a list of good doctors in your area that can treat the kind of people that have the symptoms that you're having.
And we also actually have a good new system where you can, on the attorney's side or on the doctor's side, you can go log in, give you the login, and you can find your appropriate doctors depending on the profession and whatever you're looking for based on the zip code. So really the goal is for your clients not to drive too far or walk too far, because a lot of times they don't even have a car, or, they can't afford to even get a bus ticket. So, it's important to have those doctors really close by, so we can definitely help you with that. Excellent. Thank you. And so tell me a little bit why it's important for your clients to undergo that consistent medical treatment and follow doctor's orders in order to be successful in a personal injury case.
In order to have a successful case, you have to do that. The whole thing that you're doing is you're saying, look, I'm hurt because of X, Y, and Z. This is the treatment that I had to have. There's medical bills that were incurred, and we want the other side to pay for all of that. And so if you don't listen to what your doctor tells you to do, they're going to say, well, you didn't listen to what your doctor told you to do. And so that hurts your case, because they say, well, if you really were injured, you'd have done the stuff that the doctor told you to do. If you're not consistent with your treatments, if you're missing appointments or stopping your treatment early, same thing, right? The other insurance company is going to say, well, this person must not have really been that hurt. They must not have really needed that bad, because they didn't even have the ability to go. So in order to put a good case together, it's got to show that you went through all the treatments that were needed. You got the diagnostic tests, MRIs, CT scans, whatever. You did the therapy that was recommended of you. And then if you go through those, what we call conservative steps, which would be therapy, pain medication, rest, those kinds of things, and you don't get better at that point, a surgical option is something that would need to be considered in order to get you back to where you needed to be. And if you don't do the stuff in the beginning, you can't just jump right to the surgery. So we always tell our clients on day one that most importantly, it is for them to get better, right? And that's the goal of all this. And the only way to do that is to listen to your doctors. And then by listening to your doctors, it can only help your case.
Very much so true. Yes. So always, remind my attorneys, please remind your clients on a constant basis that there is help, there will be help, so you have your, from the client's perspective, you have your attorney, you have your doctors, and I'll help you find the doctors. We'll help you with transportation if needed. So don't worry if you don't have a car because your car was totally in the crash, or you just, maybe your husband took the car for a day and you share one car. So just let me know. I will be more than happy to help you with that as well. So no worries. We want you to be in peace and just listen to your doctor and to your attorney. Okay.
Yeah. What I tell my clients is that, if it's inconvenient to get off of work to go to an appointment, which we all get, it's still important to do that because you only get one shot at resolving these cases. And if you don't do the therapy, don't do what's recommended to you, you're not going to get better. And then if 6 months down the road, 12 months down the road, you're still hurting, at that point, it really is too late. And so while we know it's an inconvenience on the front end, you need to do it for your health, for your health perspective and standpoint. But then also, like I said, you only get one shot, and the last thing we want to do is have too much time go by, and then it's too late.
Okay. And actually talking about injuries, what types of cases do you handle at the Stein Law Firm?
Yeah, so we'll handle anything where someone did something wrong and somebody got hurt, right? Truck wrecks, car wrecks are a lot of what we do. Premises liability, someone gets hurt on someone's property. If it's like a Publix or a Walmart, they slip and fall, or they trip over something, or something falls off the shelf. One of those cases. Dog attack or dog bite cases, where you're at the park or you're in your neighborhood and a dog was not properly constrained by its owner and it bites you. In those cases, daycare negligence, child get hurt at daycare for any number of reasons. We've handled really any type of case you can think of where somebody gets badly enough hurt because someone did something wrong.
Nice. And, I don't know if you ever done statistics or calculations. Can you tell just, from the top of your head, what type of cases do you do most of the time, or I would say day to day? That what's your bread and butter?
So the cases we handle the most of are probably car and truck wreck, and that's a function of living in Atlanta where there are cars and trucks everywhere, and so the volume of those cases, I think for any firm like mine is going to be the highest. So yeah, I'd say that's probably the most that we do. I think the premises liability and dog attack are something that we kind of specialize in to the extent that people will look to us to work on those cases within other lawyers that get a dog attack case or a premises case or daycare. They might not handle those cases, so they'll call us and say, hey, look, I got this case where someone slipped and fell on whatever, they broke their leg or their arm, and so we'll hop in that.
Very interesting. Talking about the daycare, yesterday I was listening to this webinar, a very interesting attorney from Alabama. There was a case of children, when they're put at teenage years into special facilities because of their behavior, and there were deaths, and just sad story, but that's for another time. Super, super sad, heartbreaking.
Yeah, the daycare cases can be heartbreaking too, because think about it, the babies, the infants that get injured can't speak for themselves, right? They're usually between 6 months old and 3 years old, and they're not able to communicate to their parents what happened. And so you're always taking the facility's word as to why this child, got hurt, and parents' spider sense goes off. They say that doesn't sound right. That doesn't seem right. And so they get us involved to kind of look into it. And I'm a big daycare fan. Both my children went through it, and 95+% are great places, but some aren't, and kids get hurt. So those are good because you can really dig into finding out what happened. The state has investigatory, bodies that come in and do investigations. We get surveillance videos inside of the facility to help us kind of find out what happened. And so those are really good cases that you feel good at the end to kind of give answers to parents as to why the child died.
Of course, yeah. And this probably applies more to, I would say, children who can talk, but, just this is to listeners and viewers. If a child is complaining, looking for help, please listen to them. Please do not ignore, because whatever they're saying, it's happening. And of course, following your gut feeling. Thank you. Tell me, Josh, how to evaluate the personal injury case to make sure it can be successful for your client.
That's probably what I have to be the best at, right? We work on a contingency fee basis, meaning that there's never an out-of-pocket charge to our clients, which they like. we're not sending them bills. The way that we get paid as personal injury lawyers is a percentage of whatever the case ultimately resolves for, via settlement or trial. And so it's very important on the front end that we are evaluating cases to see which one's going to be successful. We love helping our clients, but we are a for-profit institution, and the only way to stay in business and do what we want to do is by making sure that we vet cases and we tell our clients, honestly, you have a good case or you don't. I mean, we turn down plenty of cases every week because we just tell clients, look, we want to help you. We'd love to help you, but here's the reasons why. It's just not something that can happen. So there's really 4 steps we go through to see if it's a good case that we can help a client with. The first is, did somebody do something wrong? Is there fault to be levied against somebody? Car wreck case, that's pretty easy. Did someone run a red light? Were they speeding, changing lanes improperly? That's pretty easy to tell. Number 2, was our client injured? There's injuries and there's injuries, right? There's some people that, break legs or God forbid die or whatever, and those are really bad injuries. It's pretty obvious that those people are hurt. There's others that are still hurt, but it's what is called in the industry soft tissue, a neck or a back, and it needs some chiropractic care. You mentioned or therapy. So what are the injuries that person sustained, and are they severe enough to where it makes sense to go forward with months and months and sometimes years and years of litigation? And then number 3 would be the proximate cause. Did that the thing that we said somebody did wrong, is that what caused the injury? Okay, it's got to be linked up. It can't just be this bad thing happened, you're hurt because some other reason, and you have a case. That's not how it works. It'll be proximate cause. And the 4th, and perhaps the most important, unfortunately, is there some place to recover compensation? Is there proper insurance out there? Because that's where 99.9% of the funds in these cases come from an insurance company. And so is there a policy of insurance that covers that person that committed the bad act to compensate?
Good. Yeah, that's a good point. So a lot of times my clients ask this insurance, is that your client's insurance or is that defendant's insurance?
So good question. And it can be both. In a car wreck case, we first look to the insurance that the at-fault driver had. In Georgia, the minimum amount of insurance someone must carry to be legally able to drive on our roads is $25,000.
Okay.
Now, with medical costs these days, that does not go very far. If you have a bad injury and you get taken to Wellstar or Northside, you're looking at pretty close to $25,000. Right. And so if you have a situation where that is all the insurance the other person carries, you can then look to your own insurance. It's called underinsured or uninsured motorist coverage that you would carry on your own policy with State Farm or Allstate or whoever. And that's just that. It's coverage that will provide you some additional insurance proceeds if the person that hits you is underinsured.
Okay.
So I always preach, and if you let me, I'll take this form too. Go back right now and check your auto insurance policy and just make sure that you have uninsured motorist coverage. I mean, it's something that I deal with every week. I mean, just last week, I had a heartbreaking case where a drunk driver crossed the median and killed a mother and a daughter in their vehicle. The drunk driver had state minimum limits, not much insurance, and the family who he hit, they had no uninsured motorist coverage. So from my perspective, I have to explain to this family that while, of course, this person did a horrible thing and the injuries were the worst you can imagine, there's no place for compensation because his insurance is so low, and unfortunately, your family didn't have uninsured motorist coverage. So I always tell people it sucks to pay for any insurance, but I don't make any money off you getting it on your policy, but it's just so helpful to have, God forbid you need it.
So that's a very good point. So where would your client look on the policy?
Also, yeah. So let's just say it's State Farm. The first line of the policy will say liability coverage. That's the insurance that you purchase if you were to cause a wreck in someone else. That's also about the minimum of $25,000 a person. Just below that, it'll say underinsured motorist coverage, either added on or reduced by the 2 kinds, and it'll be right there. And either you have it or you don't. If you don't, then it won't be listed. And if you do, it will show how much it is. I tell people get as much as you can afford. It's in the grand scheme of things, it's not an expensive item on your policy, but something that you can control, right? Like you can't control if someone runs a red light and hits you. You can't control what kind of insurance that person has. You can control what kind of uninsured motorist coverage you have to protect you if that terrible scenario happens.
Yeah, so as soon as we're done with this episode, call your insurance company, log in online or on your phone and check that part, please.
Please.
And one more question here. So how does handling premises liability, dog attacks, daycare negligence cases differ from handling, let's say, truck wrecks and auto accidents?
Good question. So the car and truck wrecks, they kind of are what they are in terms of who's at fault and proving that first prong, which I was telling you something. In a car and truck wreck, we all know, call the police come out, they do an investigation, they talk to witnesses, they ask the drivers what happened. And then they come to a conclusion right then and there about who they think is at fault. And they give that person a citation. And then a wreck report is generated within 3 to 5 business days. And it's got all the information that really is needed to pursue the case. You know who the at fault party is, you know what car they're driving, you know what their insurance carrier is, and you know if they received a citation. And typically our experience is that anytime a driver receives a citation to wreck, their insurance company kind of admits that they're responsible for every damages caused. So those cases can be pretty straightforward. Once we get them, we can tell our clients, hey, look, this is exactly what you can expect to happen. In premises cases, it's not like that. Let's use the Walmart as an example. You slip and fall to Walmart because they left something in the walkway. Maybe an incident report's done, maybe it's not. But you can better believe that Walmart is not going to put on their incident report, we left this banana peel, and I'll just use something that everybody can kind of laugh at. We left this banana peel on the aisle. We knew it was there. We walked by it 4 times, didn't pick it up, and this person fell. They're not going to put that on, right? So you have to, as a lawyer, it's your job to do the investigation to find that out. File the lawsuit, take depositions, get discovery, get the video. Really determine why is it that this happened? Why is it that this person fell? And so that's a more in-depth process than with the car wreck cases, and same with dog attack, same with daycare. It's just you really got to dig into those. They take longer. They're not quite as surefire in terms of the success as the car wreck cases.
Thank you. Yes. So I know we have so little time. We'll have to cover some of these topics, subtopics next time. There's just so much to talk about. But God forbid if anybody gets injured today, tomorrow, or 5 years from now, how do we reach you, Josh?
Thanks. So my website is www.jsteinlawfirm.com. That's JSTEIN lawfirm.com, and check everything out. My email address is josh@jsteinlawfirm.com. Phone number of the office 404-418-6379, and we're always available. Always can shoot us an email or give us a call, and definitely can help you out.
Thank you so much, and I really appreciate everything we talked about today so briefly. It's time for more injury funding podcast. But before we conclude today's episode, I have one last question, as promised.
Okay.
Ready?
Okay.
Who would you like to play you in a movie?
Okay. So friends would answer this very quickly. They would say it would be Michael Imperioli. Okay. He was Christopher Moltisanti in Sopranos, Spider in Goodfellas. I don't think I look, I can see why they think that, but my friends just
do that, see that.
Yeah, they always they call me Spider for a long time. That was the name of Goodfellas. So I would not be doing a good service if I didn't answer it that way, because that's what people have always said is who I look like. So there you go.
So from my perspective, looking from profile, did anybody mention Rocky? The much better version of Rocky? No?
That one too.
I love it. Thank you so much again. So that was Josh Stein with Stein Law Firm. I want to appreciate everybody listening and watching today. And for more tips and tricks on legal funding and personal injury law related topics, follow me, like and subscribe at More Injury Funding. And it's time for More Injury Funding podcast on Spotify, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Pinterest, YouTube, Yelp, Google business profile. I'm sure there'll be more social hubs going forward. And my website as well at www.more2osinjuryfunding.com. I can't wait to see you all, my dear viewers and listeners, at my next upcoming episode. Tune in soon for our next guest. Until then, be well. Thank you, Josh.
Hey, thanks for having me. This is great.
I love it.